His name is Mark Dice. We are headed over to his channel for this one. CNN's Decades of Deception. Mark Dice in-depth report. This is a really intelligent guy. I plan on buying some of his books. He's got a number of books out there. I went on Amazon. I was like, wow, he's really out there. Yeah, the question is, who do you trust? Which media network is really trustworthy? Which one of them is not lying to you? I don't think there is a perfect one, but I think we can start asking questions to find out the best way to get the truth. But no matter where you go, there's a level of deception. But when it comes to CNN, though, I've lost all confidence in CNN about a year ago. All confidence. I realized the way they've managed the pestilence 19 pandemic and some of the things that they were saying in connection to what was happening in reality. I was like, oh no, we're not playing this game anymore. You guys have been deceiving people, so I've divorced them completely. If I watch anything, it's because it's in relation to something that I can relate to, or sometimes there's a little nugget of truth that comes out of there. But for the most part, it's just pure deception. Anyway, we're going to listen to Mark Dice. We're going to allow him to take us on a journey for this one and see where this is going. So I'm going to put a link to the original video without my commentary. We're going to listen to what he has to say. I'll pause, not as often. I'm going to try to let him run. Make sure you like and subscribe to the page as well, and check out his channel if you haven't already done so. All right, friends, without further ado, let us now get into the heart of the message.
CNN started out as the first cable news network, which is actually what CNN stands for, when it was launched in 1980 by entrepreneur Ted Turner. Back then, it was revolutionary and changed the entire news industry by rapidly deploying correspondents anywhere around the world and covering breaking news as it happened. But today, CNN is a shell of its former self and a complete embarrassment to the entire news business. Everybody obviously knows that as the 2016 election approached, CNN's coverage got more biased and more absurd by the day, and after Trump won, they completely went off the rails and lost any resemblance to a news network whatsoever. But CNN's fake news problem dates back before Trump. One of the prime examples is them perpetuating the hands up, don't shoot hoax, which largely gave rise to the Black Lives Matter movement. The saying was falsely attributed to Michael Brown, the 6'4", 300-pound thug who robbed a convenience store before attacking a police officer in Ferguson, Missouri in 2014, resulting in him being shot and killed. After covering the riots one night, host Sally Cohn concluded her show saying that the network wants the protesters, the rioters, to know that they support them, and then she and her three other panelists all held up their hands in solidarity with the protesters who had adopted the gesture as a symbol of their cause. After the investigation into the shooting of Michael...
Lately I have been talking about on my channel, just war among the races, right? We have a lot of anti-white bigotry today happening online. And I was talking about how I think, when I do my own study, historical research, that Obama had a role to play in some of this stuff. But let's think a little deeper. The media has been fanning the flame, so to a large degree, some of this stuff could not happen if the media was not separating and dividing the races by promoting one side of the issue in comparison to the other. So exactly, it's like they're not doing their jobs anymore. They become part of the problem instead of being part of the solution.
Brown was complete. Even some of the most liberal of news outlets admitted that the claim that he had his hands up when he was shot was false, and the narrative was ranked one of the biggest lies of the year, even by the far-left Washington Post. The damage had long been done, though. Hands up, don't shoot had become the rallying cry of Black Lives Matter, and the slogan was printed on signs at protests and on people's t-shirts, and the lie that Michael Brown was an innocent victim, murdered by a racist police force, had taken root. Milwaukee Sheriff David Clark would later say that fake news was born in Ferguson when the liberal media propagated the hands up, don't shoot lie, but sadly, so many...
Yeah, that guy is not a joke. Milwaukee sheriff. He had an interview with Don Lemon where he kind of put Don Lemon in a spot. I did do a reaction video to that. Maybe I can link it up here. But yeah, it's crazy because the police themselves will tell you, hey, man, you guys are creating the problem here. What's happening in the streets with our interaction with the people and what you guys are saying on over the airways of two different things. You're not helping the cause. You're making matters worse. And we are now seeing the consequences of some of this stuff that they've been putting out, unfortunately.
Americans have forgot, so I'm just here to remind you. Of course, everyone knows that CNN said that we weren't allowed to read Hillary's emails that WikiLeaks published. Only the media was allowed to read them. Project Veritas caught Van Jones on camera admitting the Russia conspiracy.
I remember that. Yeah. The Cuomo brothers. Have you noticed what happened to them lately? Maybe it's a coincidence. Maybe it was an act of God.
Them. Project Veritas caught Van Jones on camera admitting the Russia conspiracy theories were fake news, but CNN ran them every day anyway. They obviously hate white people, and some may even remember when Reza Aslan ate human brains on air. But I want to go back further into the past. CNN's chief war correspondent...
What? Reza Aslam spark outrage after eating human brain in new show. It tastes like charcoal. Is this a fact or what? I need to look it up. You gotta be kidding. Reza Aslam.
But I want to go back further into the past. CNN's chief war correspondent, Christian Amanpour, admitted that reporters were self-censoring themselves in their coverage of the buildup to and during the Iraq War, and when looking back on the events, said that they weren't rigorous enough, they didn't ask the right questions, and later characterized the Bush administration's reasons, lies, for going into war as disinformation at the highest levels. Disinformation that CNN gladly repeated, like the Operation Mockingbird assets that they are. Eason Jordan, who was their former chief news executive, later admitted that before the Iraq War, CNN was censoring stories about atrocities Saddam Hussein and his sons had committed because the network didn't want their Iraqi CNN affiliates to face repercussions by the regime. Just after the Iraq War started in 2003, he wrote an op-ed for the New York Times titled "The News We Kept to Ourselves" and tried to justify keeping various atrocities he knew of secret because he claimed revealing them would have jeopardized the lives of Iraqis who worked on CNN's Baghdad staff. He also said that some of the events he knew about still haunt him, so at least he was able to retain part of his conscience. Former CNN reporter Peter Collins, who was in Baghdad during the buildup to the first Gulf War, said that he was with Eason Jordan and CNN's president at the time, Tom Johnson, during meetings with Iraqi officials where they were hoping to get an interview with Saddam Hussein. And Collins later revealed that he was astonished from both the tone and the content of those conversations because it seemed to him that CNN was groveling for the interview. And a few months later, he wrote an op-ed for the Washington Times about his experience titled "Corruption at CNN," where he said that he felt CNN was broadcasting Saddam Hussein's propaganda for him in hopes of getting an exclusive interview with him, but they ended up getting scooped by CBS. He said he thought long and hard about whether he could be comfortable with a supposed news organization that played those kinds of games and decided that he couldn't, and resigned. These aren't the only startling allegations of this kind. In 2012, former CNN journalist Amber Lyon went public with her experience working for the network, giving details of...
Yeah, I heard about Amber. I didn't know the depths of her story. I've also heard about that. Goodness. I was listening to the Young Turks the other day. I'm not usually listening to them, but every now and then I go and hear what they have to say because they give you the other side of the issue. What was her name? Anna Kasparian. Anna, I guess her name is. But she was saying, "Who do you trust? And that was her question, who do you trust? And this was after the lab leak theory was confirmed. And they put out a video talking about how they don't know who to trust. In 2 years ago, she had a video out calling Mr. Trump a conspiracy theorist and everything for talking about the lab leak. And now the stuff is confirmed, and now she's crying out, who do you trust? And also Sync they were just going crazy on the channel. And the comments were wild because I was reading the comments. It's like people were just laughing at them like, you guys are silly. But the thing is, the question is not wrong though. Like, who do you trust? Like, especially when it seems like everybody's lying to you, you know? Lord have mercy.
Former CNN journalist Amber Lyon went public with her experience working for the network, giving details of more clear examples of them catering to dictatorships, saying that what CNN was doing in Bahrain at the time was essentially creating infomercials for dictators, and they were violating every principle of journalistic ethics.
We're supposed to be watchdogs on these governments. We're not supposed to allow them to be paying customers as journalists. And that's the issue here, is that CNN is feeding then this propaganda to the public and not fairly disclosing to the public that this is sponsored content.
Well, wait until she finds out about Operation.
Nothing to see here. But that's the problem right there. You follow the money, you know. Like the scripture says, the love of money is the root of all kind of evil, which while some coveted after, they erred from the faith and pierced themselves through with many sorrows. You got to be careful with the love of money, man. It will get you to do some funny looking things. And I think this is a warning to us. So some of these systems have been bought out by all these rich networks, or should I say businesses and so on, and lobbyists. They are controlling the narrative. And they're controlling the media. That's why you can see certain news being put out, and it's like, brought to you by Pfizer. Like they will never speak against anything that might be going wrong with the system or with the inoculation, no matter how many person had passed away or complained. You know, any side effects that's been talked about, that is completely ignored because they are sponsored by these companies. So the man who pays your bills, you can't speak against. You cannot bite the hands that feed you. And he went on to deceive the people.
Operation Mockingbird and the CIA's secret relationship with the mainstream media. We all remember how President Trump famously pushed back against their odd and obsessive attacks shortly after the 2016 election, telling Jim Acosta that CNN is fake news, which caused the label to stick. But with their reputation in shambles, CNN's president at the time, Jeff Zucker, said that he felt that the network's credibility was higher than ever.
He's funny. Yeah, he is. Zucker's claim is it's just a ridiculous claim. I don't know why he would even think that. Higher than ever. You know, when Mr. Trump was saying CNN fake news, I used to think like, is he crazy or what? But I realized one thing with Mr. Trump: when he says something, he is so sure of himself. He doesn't just say it. He says it based on facts. Like, he is so sure of himself. And you can almost be certain that he probably knows more than you think he does. Like, he really does have inside information. And when he comes out and say, CNN is fake news, right? The lab leak theory. He said China virus. When he says that, although I don't agree with damning Chinese people, some people will interpret that in this way and hurt Chinese people, which is not right. But when he was saying China virus, he was kind of saying it came from China. He was right. He was right. He said the Russian thing was a hoax. He was right. Like, there was a lot of things he said that was right. And he even spoke about how Germany was going to be in trouble if they put up with all these regulation with the Green New Deal. People laughed at him when he said that. Turned out to be right. It's like, yeah. So when Donald Trump puts that label on you as fake news, it sticks forever. It sticks forever. When he says it, it's almost like it proves itself to be true later on in time. And it's true. CNN has been lying to us for a long time. He took on Mr. Trump to expose the iniquity of CNN.
Of course, the overarching theme of their coverage as the election approached was that Hillary's victory was inevitable. Exposing the fake news from CNN would take a 24-hour news network in and of itself, but their evil goes far beyond inciting violence against Trump supporters and white people. And like I said, they've cozied up to dictatorships in foreign countries, hoping to get interviews to further CNN's business interest in certain countries. Just a few weeks before the 2016 election, when Trump was warning about possible hacking of electronic voting machines, CNN ran a story titled, "No, the presidential election can't be hacked," and dismissed Trump's concerns. But right after Hillary's devastating loss, they published this story with the headline, "Where's the outrage over Russia's hack of the U.S. election?"
Oh my goodness, these people are wild. You see how they play this game? It's virtue signaling. They play the politics and politics so well. They know how to turn it up and turn it down. So you put an article together to debunk supposedly Mr. Trump concern about the election, the voting stuff being hacked. And then you put another one supporting the very thing that he was talking about. It's like, oh, come on, people. This is a game. This is a game. It's a sham. You cannot put your trust in man. You cannot. Mercy.
During one of their endless paranoid rants about their conspiracy theories regarding the Trump campaign colluding with the Russians to steal the election from Hillary, they used B-roll from a video game called Fallout 4 in a segment about Russian hackers. They literally used a clip from a video game during a supposed news story. CNN contributor Bob Baer actually wanted an election do-over, and their senior media analyst, who sadly has been fired, Brian Stelter, said that it was a national emergency once Trump was inaugurated, and said that it felt like a dictator.
I know he's working for the WEF currently, and he had run a segment at the last Davos meeting, talking about fake news. And most people were like, wait a minute. The one guy who's known for pushing fake news is now lecturing us about fake news? Okay, buddy.
Had just seized power. Then later that day, when it was learned that President Trump picked Frank Sinatra's My Way for the first dance at the presidential inaugural ball, CNN reported that Sinatra's daughter, Nancy, was upset that he was using her father's song. She then responded on Twitter saying that wasn't true, she never said that, and CNN was lying as usual. As long as CNN is on the air, they're lying. And like I said, it would be a full-time job to debunk the lies they spew because that's all they do. They're deceptive in virtually every possible way, from lying by omission to even changing the color of Joe Rogan's skin after he revealed that he contracted the coronavirus.
You gotta be kidding me. You got to be kidding me. You serious?
And his doctor was treating him in a way that the liberal orthodoxy didn't approve of because it undermined confidence.
Wow. Yo, look what they've done. Well, you can tell that they've gone as far. Even the tree, the color of the tree has changed as well. This was a cheap job because there's a way to cut out this picture and then change the color and at least leave the trees. So the fact the trees are no longer as green, it tells a lot about how poor of a job this was. All I'm saying is they could have done a better job deceiving people with this. You know what I'm saying? You could have kept the background as green as this one, kind of like cut out this picture, Photoshop, cut this out, and then change the color and put it on top of this background. I'm not giving any bad ideas here. I'm just saying the fact they did this so poorly, it shows how either self-deceived they are or ignorant they are of the people's intelligence. But nevertheless, for them to go as far to do something like this is just repulsive.
Confidence in their mandatory vaccine agenda. For many years, I've been debunking fake news and exposing the mechanisms that work behind the scenes of the liberal media industrial complex. So if you want to learn more, order my book, The True Story of Fake News, How Mainstream Media Manipulates Millions, in paperback from Amazon.com, or download the ebook from Kindle, iBooks, Nook, or Google Play. My books are a lot more serious and in-depth than my videos, but if you like watching my serious monologues like this, then you'll love reading my books. So head on over to Amazon.com or click the link in the description below and check them out.
Who do you trust when you have a media network doing stuff like this? And this is just CNN. There is ABC, MSNBC, CBS, there's Fox News, and none of them are perfect. I think Fox News is decent, but there's deception there too. I'm telling you, you're better off finding a YouTube channel. And I would recommend like Redacted or something like that, or the Rebel News or something like this. There might be others that you guys can refer to. I have a number of them that I follow. So there are some others who are just foot soldiers. They are in the streets and they are meeting the people and they are asking the hard questions, and they make their YouTube channel based on these things. You better off finding these type of alternative media networks. You better off going to Joe Rogan podcasts. You'll get more solid truth than you will going on these mainstream media networks. And the question is, who do you trust? Especially when they're lying like that. They did that to Joe Rogan's skin. I was like, you can't possibly do something like this. But you know what? It doesn't shock me, because that's just what it's always been about deception. It just doesn't shock me. And this is why the Bible tells us, friends, in Jeremiah 17, verse 5, thus saith the Lord, cursed be the man that trusteth in man, that maketh flesh his arm, whose heart departed from the Lord. He shall be like a heath in the desert, and shall not see when good cometh, and shall inherit the parched places of the earth, and in a salt land not inhabited. So what's going on with this man here? What is his first problem? He is cursed. How do I get this curse? How could this man be cursed? Because he put his trust in men. This is warning for us. Warning number one. Don't ever put your trust and confidence in men. Because you hear what's going to happen? You put your trust in them. You make them your strength. You depart from God. What's happening? You shall be like the heath in the desert, and shall not see when good cometh. Parched places of the earth. You're going to be left in the wilderness wondering, what in the world done happened to me? That's exactly. But on the other end is, blessed is the man that trusteth in the Lord. So you can either trust in men or trust in God. You have two options to work with here. So the one who trusts in the Lord is going to receive the blessings, which are, whose hope the Lord is. It shall be like a tree planted by the waters, that spreadeth out her roots by the river, and shall not see when the heat cometh. And her leaf shall be green, and shall not be careful in a year of drought, neither shall cease from yielding fruit. So that's it. You're either going to trust in these men, or you're going to trust in God. And I find that this doesn't necessarily mean you don't listen to the news, you don't ask the tough questions and everything. You just got to go deeper than what is being shared. You got to read a little bit more. You got to be very thoughtful about what is being said. And no matter how much information you have, you still want to put the word of God above everything that you know. And I'm learning to do more of that every time I do my studies, That's why I would always share a Bible verse or something, because I realize no matter how much is being put out in the world today, there is still a segment of deception that you and I might not know about. So that's why we gotta ask the difficult questions and look deeper and look beyond. But I'll tell you what, Mark Dice did an excellent job exposing CNN on this one. This is a very intelligent guy. I appreciate his content as well. He tells it like it is. He doesn't bite his tongue. My goodness, these guys changed Joe Rogan's skin. That one right here is gonna stick with me for a long time. And that's something. To deceive people about C19. Shame on them. Make sure you like and subscribe to the page. Also, the link to the original YouTuber is below. Make sure you go and show some love with him, to him as well. Thank you for checking out this video. Until next time, and as always, remember to look unto Jesus and to live by faith. Have a good one. Bye.